What's up everyone, Worldwide Benny here, back with another Planet Coaster 2 video. Today we're going to be doing something a little different. We are actually going to be building a park, or a garden of sorts actually. This garden I wanted to style after something you might see in a Cyberpunk Plaza or like a Japanese cherry blossom festival type area. Going to be using some of the Japanese maples and cherry blossom trees as well as some other foliage to fill it out. But to start, we are using one of these dark ride, track ride builds sort of to create the sloping for the park. I saw a video a long time ago that used this method and figured I would give it a go. I haven't done a whole lot with the terrain tools in Planet Coaster 2 yet, so forgive me for being a little slow to get this developed. I'm trying to lay the path around at the beginning of this, going up this hill I've created, and it just looks super jank and crooked. And that's because I hadn't been properly using the flatten to foundation tool, which is really useful. But you can see right there, I'm trying to drag it out. It works a lot better if you just kind of click around with it and do it in small bursts, in addition to using the flatten to surface and smooth tool. That helps make it a little bit better. I think this try I get a little bit closer here, but it still takes me a minute to get it just right. It looks good from a distance, but then you zoom in and everything's tilted and crooked. That's where you really need to be using that flatten to foundation, just to get everything actually 100% flat, not just smoothed over. So we start using that, clicking around, looking down at it from a lower view. It's already starting to look smoother. Yep, looking much better. Decent steepness across the board. I kind of wanted like a looping up thing, multi-tiered, that you could walk through and put plants and foliage and trees between. Thought that would look cool. And you also might be wondering why I'm using like a concrete sort of path. I think they call it the blue path in Planet Coaster 2. Don't worry, that's going to change later. It's just what I was using for the time being. Hadn't really thought that far ahead yet, but using the meadow terrain decoration tool, which I think looks really good, adds a bit of dimension to the area, and then using the rock terrain on the side to give it a little more dimension as well there, just smoothing out all the areas around it. It takes a while to get it exactly how I want it, but it's starting to get close. Doesn't look like much yet, but once you put it together, it really starts to look good. I tried using the scenery brush on these tilted areas where I kind of have the different tiers going for this walkway. I've noticed that the scenery brush doesn't work incredibly on sloped surfaces. Even if you do align to surface, it still has a tough time, getting everything aligned. Actually, it'll have, plants floating above where they should be, or parts of the plants jutting way out, depending on where they land. So for flat surfaces, like you'll see in a minute, it's great. But for the tilted, sloped surfaces, you're going to have to just manually go in and put stuff. So get those cherry blossoms and Japanese maples laid out. They look super good. I love the 3 size options of the cherry blossoms. They're all 3 quite different. That medium-sized one is especially cool and gives a lot of good coverage for, like, if you wanted to put benches or something like that. And then I'm also using these bramble plants that you're seeing as in addition to the bracken ferns to line the path. Just good filler foliage. I'm not trying to be super specific with the foliage I use. I'm sure, it's way off for what could grow in an environment naturally, but I'm just kind of using the ones that look good, look consistent with each other, give the space some color, and those bramble plants that are kind of long just really work well for quickly filling in the outside of a path. Next, we put some of these heather plants down. Really like the basic purple kind of lavender color that goes with them. I end up using them quite a bit more later, but just wanted to use them to line the path. Just kind of testing out ideas at this point, using some of that rough rock terrain brush to clean in the sides and give it a little more dimension. Back to the brambles. They look great. Mixing them in with the ferns and more of those heather plants. Got to do a line to surface there for tilting up. And yeah, they're starting to look good. They add some dimension, make it all not look the exact same. And then redoing my paths over there. This is kind of off to the right side of Cyber City. If you've been keeping up with the series, you'll have seen my last video where I worked on the downtown plaza, which still definitely needs a couple more buildings as well as a centerpiece. But I wanted to do something a little more natural today to shake it up. And so I figured this park would be a cool offshoot to the right side. You know, you've got the dingy old block when you go in the park to the left where Chop Shop is. So to the right, go a little more natural. See right there actually is where I tried to use the scenery brush on a tilted surface and it just didn't quite work. But use some of those temperate forest trees. Those looked okay. I think I ended up going with the park trees just because they were a little less large. They fit into the vibe of what I was going for a little bit better. But yeah, I figured this natural area would be kind of cool. I do have a ride planned for this. If you keep watching, I end up doing a Teacup ride later on that's themed after dueling dragons, not the roller coaster dueling dragons, but I use the scenery pieces of the dragon head that comes in the, I think it's the Viking set or Viking theme, but get those set up with some really cool light features on that Teacup wheel. I won't spoil too much because that'll come later in the video and maybe even the next video. But yeah, already starting to look really nice. Once I get the path color changed, it really makes a lot more sense. The concrete isn't bad, but just doesn't quite fit with the cozy vibe of this park area quite yet. So go in here, get my path attached, do a little loop around thing, and then round everything out, get it nice and smooth. I really wanted it to be whenever you turn off the downtown area and look off to the right, you see people walking up those tiers. Using this resort lamppost, really like how it looks. I end up changing the colors of it a bit later, get it lined up on the path, but they're just really cool. They're simple. They remind me of the like Japanese fabric box sort of lamps that you see at antique stores sometimes. So I went with those. I end up changing them to a lighter color post, I believe, and a more amber color light whenever I first see them at night here in a minute. It just looks a little too, cold and white, which is fine, but definitely wanted that amber look. So jumping in here, I think I go with the sand color, and that looks just a lot nicer. And then I do some uplighting on the trees. I noticed that the trees look really cool in the daytime, but at night they don't look too amazing. Nothing pops out about them. So hiding these uplights kind of back in the foliage really makes this area pop. I mean, immediately makes a huge difference, adds a ton of dimension to this segment of the park. Getting more of those brambles laid out to fill in some space to cover up some of that green grass back there. And yeah, already coming together pretty quickly. I was kind of surprised how easily it came together once I got going on it. So let's see, what do I jump into here next? I'm kind of just moving around right now, looking at different pieces of the park, kind of trying to plot out what I'm going to do. I lay out a little more of a flattened area here so I can extend the path. I wanted to keep it going a little longer to start thinking ahead. But I don't build out too far into that yet. Throw a couple trees down, but not a whole lot. And we're just going to continue lining with bushes. I do end up lining with some fences here in a bit. I forget the name of them, but they're the two wood posts with like the rope netting between them. They end up looking really cool. And I actually use those as well to build the queue line for the Teacup ride I do. I felt like the Teacup ride made the most sense. This is kind of a chill garden. I actually name it initially in this video Tranquil Garden, but that name changes later. And I'll give you the reason why once it changes. But Teacup seemed cool. You have a tea party in the garden. Why not have a Teacup ride in the garden? Seemed fun. So going to continue lining the path with these lamps. Just get it around to the other side over here. Not worrying too much that the spacing is perfect because, once you're moving and walking around in there and seeing it from a distance, it's pretty close. Just filling out with a couple more bushes, cleaning up some of the bushes that looked a little jank and jutted out over the edge. What are those? Those are more, brambles. I forget what the name of those big, darker green ground cover plants are, but they're super useful for that. And then getting the heather plant strip laid out a little more as well. Periwinkle flowers, end up using a lot of those periwinkle flowers for ground coverage over on the Teacup ride whenever I do that. The Teacup ride is going to be off to the right side if you're looking right now. There's a big empty space behind that skyscraper, and I figured that would be a good spot to use for it. Jumping over here, filling out some more foliage, getting some trees set up on the entrance to this section of the park. some cherry blossoms. A little bit of that gets moved away later whenever I start the teacup ride, but laying out these planters, getting them squared away, just filling out the space. I really like how these planters turned out. Love the color of those flowers. I think they fit the theme of Cyber City quite well. So keep it going there. And then just to the left there where I'm putting the planters right now, that's where the sign's going to end up going. I make some cool custom lighting fixtures as well with the dragons that I like. This whole area of the park has kind of a dragon-ish theme, which I dig. And then looking for a good sign. Was struggling to find the wood sign, so finally I just searched wood. If you ever need something and can't find it in the categories, the menus are kind of weird in this game, and sometimes pieces you would expect to be in one place just aren't and end up in an entirely different menu. So a lot of times I just end up searching the material and looking through. Unfortunately, there aren't really any text options that did a whole lot for me. That was just kind of a proxy text for now. Like, I'll end up changing it later to something else. Using the scenery brush to throw some rocks down. Just get a little bit of texture going here at the park entrance. I end up turning that first curve right there into a small little, like, not plaza, but just a little small rest stop with a couple of benches. And I can't remember if I put a centerpiece there. I recorded this footage a couple days ago, so I'm kind of watching along with y'all. It's been a busy week for me, so don't remember exactly everything I did. I was having trouble with the I was trying to mess around with the editor tool for pathing. I'm still really bad with it, but one side of it is tilted up further than the other, so I just could not get it to exactly go flat, and I tried rounding it off to make like a little centerpiece thing there, and it just didn't work. And I think I end up just deleting the path, flattening the area to foundation, and then putting it back down. So we'll see. Yep, here I do. So grab that, flatten the foundation. Sometimes you just have to flatten it out if it's not playing nice and giving you weird curves and whatnot. Throw the octagon down. This is what I found to be the best way to create a circle type area. Just throw a big octagon down, or a hexagon. Octagon works a little better. And then just use the rounding tool. Using those periwinkle flowers, super easy, quick ground coverage, as well as the arrowwood brush. Those just, or arrowwood bush, those eat up a lot of space really quick, which is super useful. Move the Tranquil Garden sign. Throw that cherry blossom behind it. Get that medium-sized one there for a little bit of shade for the park guests. And here's where I change the color of the path and where it really starts to come together. I'm using the vertical wooden plank, and it looks awesome. Makes all the difference in the world. Don't know why I didn't do it in the first place. I was just in a rush. Loading some creations. What was I looking for? Oh, I was looking for custom dragon creations other people had made, because I knew I wanted to start theming this area dragon. Didn't see anything that I loved too much, but it sparked a little bit of creativity, and went looking for some wood posts. Really like these dragon pieces that are, I think they're like Viking themed technically, but they work for the sort of Japanese Asian style garden with the cherry blossom plants. And so now I'm looking for some wood posts here. Didn't love the round ones. I end up going with some square ones here in a minute, and I do some custom lighting on top of them with those fabric box lights that I use to line the path. So get that set up there. Get my dragons placed on them. Let's see. Yep, there it is. Get it lined up. Get the color matching a little better. Already looking good. And then move it over here. Scoot some things out of the way so I can make space for the entrance. Boom, there's one. Duplicate it, two. There's the start of the Dueling Dragons. This is where the theme popped into my head. Figuring out how to light these bad boys. Looking through all sorts of different lighting. Trying some arch stuff to see if I can get like a cool arched entryway. Still kind of want to do that, but ended up not loving anything I came up with right here. So that's where I grabbed the same lamps from earlier, slid them down into the post to make it look like it's actually a part of this post, not just slapped together, and then duplicate it for the other side. And that's looking good. Check it out at night. Looks great. Entrance is looking really cool. Finish lining the path for my downtown area leading into it. Get some more of those uplights, guys. I cannot stress enough how much the uplights on trees do for a park. If you haven't been doing it and you like having your park look sweet at night, it's just a game changer. And then figuring out if I want to do any other additional lighting along this pathway. I don't think I end up doing anything too crazy. Yeah, I just end up copying these box lights and moving them around. They give off a decent bit of light, not a ton, but it should be a pretty chill area, so I'm not super worried. Let's see, what do I jump into next? I've got this like fire post. I think I do something cool there. Yeah. Grab one of the posts from the entrance, put this little fire pit thing on top of it, get it lined up, adds a little bit of natural ambience, and then duplicate the dragons and put them on all sides. I think it looks pretty cool, pretty simple. Not going too crazy, super detailed on some of these props. I don't want to take forever for every section of the park. This game can just absolutely decimate your time if you're not careful. There's some cool tent topper things there that I might do at some point, but for the time being decided against it. Just wanted to throw some bins out so that it didn't become a trash fest. And then what am I jumping into next? Oh, I love those umbrellas. Probably use some of those. I'll maybe do like a picnic area at the top of this walkway garden. But for now, I'm starting to do the fencing. This fencing works super, super well with what I'm doing here. And it's pretty easy to line up. Don't have to use the advanced move tool too much until you get on the slopes. And even then you can kind of finagle it. This is where I had the realization that the teacup ride would be great. So get the teacup ride squared away in a second, clear out some of the foliage so I can have a pathway. And then, yeah, just looking around at the city, it's looking cool. The pathways to it are really nice. The different sections of the park feel pretty good and distinct. Not sure what the next big section of the park is going to be. This garden and chop shop are probably going to eat up most of my time on this park for the next couple videos, but get the teacup ride set up. There's so many color options on this thing. It took me a while to go through and get everything dialed how I wanted it, but I wanted a, beige, light, simple color palette to decorate with. I end up doing a really cool lighting feature design for the center of the teacups later on. I think that'll be actually in the next video because it's in some other footage that I shot. But basically I make these big light umbrellas that look awesome. They're multi-tiered. When they rotate, they look super cool from a distance. They glow super bright. But now just building some hills around it so it feels a little more enclosed, feels like it's actually a part of the section. Surprisingly, once you get used to the terrain tool, it's pretty easy to make natural looking terrain. It just takes a little bit of time to figure out how to use all the pieces most effectively. So next we're going to do the queue line. I wanted it to, smoothly wrap around, and then the queue on the outside to do the same. Took me a minute to get it just right. You can't match it perfectly, but we get pretty close, and then round everything out. For some reason, I couldn't get that one edge rounded out over there, but it's no big deal. I'm not going to complain too much. Get the trees moved because I wanted the guests to be able to have a better view when they walk into this section of the teacup ride. It's no fun if you walk in and can't even see the ride there. You want your guests you want it to catch their eye. In a real amusement park, you would have lines of sight to these rides so that people know they're there, not just by signs. Using the meadow grass there again, using those park trees to fill out this area and kind of block it off from the parking lot out there. End up deciding to just go grass on most of the landscape around the park. I originally was going to do sand or like dirt or something, but grass just feels better. And once you're in the middle of the city, in those like city blocks and downtown areas, you don't really see it too much anyway. So yep, fill out some more area behind so that the garden really feels isolated and enclosed. Throw out some of these cherry blossom and Japanese maples around the edge, and I believe I end up doing some uplighting on those. And then this is where the periwinkle flowers are clutch. You can just line the sides of hills with these things, and they add so much dimension. I know I can change color of them, and maybe I'll go and like mass select and change some colors for them later. But for the time being, I was moving pretty quick. I was feeling inspired, and so I didn't want to spend a ton of time changing up the flowers of them. Plus, if it were real periwinkle flowers and they're spreading their seed around, it's probably going to be the same color anyway. So next, work on some pathing. I've got it reversed, so I realize I need to flip it around. A theme you're going to notice as I lay out these fencings across this whole section of the park is I accidentally put them backwards quite a bit. So you'll have to bear with me as I double back here and there. This part was definitely a little bit tedious, but hey, this game can be a bit tedious. If you can't put up with tedious, monotonous placement of individual items, then Planet Coaster 2 isn't for you. But you throw a podcast on, throw on some music, and just, settle in and focus, and like, it's just, there's nothing like it. It's a great game to play. I've really been enjoying Planet Coaster 2 so far. I'm glad that y'all who have been watching these videos have been enjoying them. Honestly, didn't think I'd be getting any of the viewership that I am getting. It's just super cool to see people giving me ideas in the chat. One guy mentioned the other day that you could use the yellow and black curbs to block off guests and make sure they're walking the right direction. I will be trying that in a future video on the exit line for my drop tower that I built a couple videos ago. Hoping that works. He said he wasn't positive, but if it does work, that's clutch. Thank you so much. Leave comments, give me advice, tell me things I should change, tell me ways I can do things more efficiently. I'm not the most efficient builder in this game, but I like to think I'm pretty creative with my ideas. And so, yeah, just laying down some more foliage. Got some people all blocked up right there. I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh, I had to set it to bargain. The pricing is really, I've noticed, weird in this game, where like if your pricing is even remotely too high, nobody will go on the ride. So at this point, just to keep things flowing and keep things looking cool, I've been making every ride a bargain, and that helps get people in the lines. So if you're having that issue and people aren't riding your rides for some reason, check the price of the ride. That tends to solve it for me. Filling out some more foliage over here on the outside. Nothing too crazy. The periwinkle flowers looking good, and that section of the park is looking cool. I kind of do a quick walkthrough here, just looking around to see what it feels like, and yeah, I'm stoked. It looks awesome. It is already becoming exactly what I wanted, and I'm looking forward to doing more work on this in the future. In the next video, we'll be decorating that teacup ride a little more, as well as doing some more fencing on the path. But for now, I'm just closing out, adjusting some of this foliage and moving some trees around to get better lines of sight for the ride. That being said, I'm closing out here. Hope y'all enjoyed this one. A little bit different than the rest of the industrial neon I've been doing for most of the videos. But hey, I think it's pretty cool. If you have any other ideas, shoot them my way, and I will see you in the next one.